Hello everyone and welcome to Hill Street. Today's story is I Lost Her in the Water. If you end up enjoying this story, please leave a like. And if you enjoy hearing stories from me, please subscribe and become a resident of Hill Street and let me know how I'm doing in the comments. Now, let's get to this nightmare. I still remember when I first saw her, my phone screen lighting up my face in the dark of my room. I was laying in bed, swiping through Tinder as any guy in his early 20s would do. When she flashed across my screen, I felt my chest swell. Her playful grin, the freckles on her nose, her fiery red hair. Her name was Charlotte, 21, and about 10 miles from my location. She was so far out of my league, I just assumed she wouldn't match, but still, I decided to try my luck and swiped right. It's a match popped up on my screen, and my heart leaped. I couldn't believe it. A day or two goes by, and we talk almost all day. We have so much in common. We like the same music, shows, and books. I honestly couldn't believe she was real. It was like I had found the girl of my dreams. After a week or so, I built up the courage to ask her out. She says yes, and that Friday we go to catch a movie and eat at the local diner downtown. It was the happiest I've been in a long while. Our conversations flow so well, and we play off each other in a way that feels like we've known each other for years. We go on a few more dates, and things start becoming more serious. She's spending more and more time at my place, and I honestly never want her to leave. She's becoming my best friend the more time we spend together, and I can slowly feel myself falling heavily in love with her. Without getting into too specific details, we live around the Bay Area. Growing up, my family would sometimes take trips down to Sedona, Arizona. It's so beautiful down there. The red and golden rocks and cliffs etched into the ground like a maze. The plant life is sparse, but it's just the right amount that the patches of green heavily stand out against the dry atmosphere. A reminder of life in even the harshest of conditions. It's about 12 hours from where we live, and wanting to surprise her, I suggested we take a spontaneous trip down there. It's around 5:30 p.m. when I mentioned this to her, so we'd get there just in time for sunrise. She leaps at the idea and instantly agrees. I wish I had never asked her. I wish we had never gone. We leave around 6. After packing just the bare essentials, we're on the road, taking the highway all the way down. The trip down there was uneventful for the most part. Just an occasional rest stop to use the bathroom, a drive through some 24/7 McDonald's, that kind of stuff. We stopped at a 7-Eleven to fill up gas about an hour out. As she was in the bathroom, I changed the song to some sappy playlist I had made for her. She came back, and when she opened the car door, I was sitting there with a stupid grin on my face, as Careless Whisper jammed out the speakers. She just started laughing and hopped in, planting a kiss on my cheek. She grabbed my hand and didn't let go until we got there. When we arrived, it was a little before sunrise, but still pretty dark. With nothing but time to kill, I asked what she wanted to do. She suggested we could watch something on YouTube, maybe scroll through Netflix or something. I agreed, thinking we could maybe lay down a blanket in the back and watch some god-awful rom-com until the sun decided to poke its fiery head out and illuminate the desert paradise around us. I pulled out my phone, but the connection was absolute crap. No bars or anything. Hers was out too. Made sense, being all the way out here. I closed my eyes, thinking about what we could do. I remembered from when I came as a kid that there were small water holes around the area that we would sometimes stop and cool off in. After I brought it up to her, she thought it sounded fun, so we put the car in drive and drove around until we found one. Since it was still dark, I left the car's light shining on the small pool of water. It was pitch black and about 10 feet wide. I threw off my shirt and pants, kicked off my shoes, and cannonballed in, making sure to be as obnoxious as possible and splash her as much as I could. When I breached the surface, she was dripping and looked slightly mad, but as the water dripped down her face, I saw her frown turn into a grin, and she started laughing. She stripped down to her underwear and jumped in next to me, splashing me with the cool water. As annoying as it should have been, I couldn't help but love every second of it. We stopped after a bit and just stared at each other as we treaded water. I pulled her close and kissed her in the quiet glow of the moon, the car headlights lighting up the droplets on our face like a disco ball. In that moment, I don't think I've ever been happier. I would give anything to stay in that moment. Anything for what happened next to never have happened. I let her go and said I'd be right back. I had bought a cheap disposable camera at one of the rest stops and wanted to grab it to capture the moment. I got out and walked to my bag in the driver's seat. As I came back, she was still treading water in the middle of the pool, looking up at the stars. She looked so beautiful as the moon lit her up. I don't think I've ever seen anything more beautiful. She turned around and looked back at me smiling. Then it happened. It happened so fast. The water started almost climbing onto her. The darkness wrapping around her so suddenly, we both couldn't process what was happening. I quickly realized the water was shaping into something else. It was shaping into hands. What looked like hundreds and hundreds of long, outstretched pitch black arms all started reaching out onto her and grabbing her with frightening quickness. The fingers ripped into her skin. As they wrapped her up, they started to pull her down. She fought like hell, screaming and pushing with everything in her. They pulled her down under the water, and the last glimpse I had of her was her pushing her face through the surface, struggling with all her strength to scream and keep breathing, until the last two hands clamped over her mouth from either side, muffling the scream and leaving me staring at her tear-filled eyes until those two were swallowed up. Her bright red hair danced along the surface, almost taunting me, until being dragged down with the rest of her. And then, as quickly as it happened, it was over. It was quiet. The moon shone over me as I just stood there in shock. The water was back to normal, a dark pool reflecting the silver stars. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't do anything. What could I have done? I dropped the camera and slowly, in a state of shock, put my clothes back on, picked hers up, and threw them in the back seat. I sat down in the driver's seat. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the wheel. I was in a complete state of shock. I hate myself for it, for not helping her. I should have jumped in after her, tried to grab her, anything. I turned on the car and put it in reverse. My way home was lit up by the sunrise, an eerie, beautiful sight that didn't feel at all deserved after the horror that just happened in the dark. I passed the stop where I first put on the playlist. The memories of her flooded back into me, and I started crying. I started wailing. I sobbed harder than I ever had before. All the dates, the dances, the smiles, the kisses, all coming back, and all gone, until there was nothing left but her face being swallowed up by those hands and being pulled beneath the surface. Nothing left but the screams. God, those screams. I still hear them. I had to hear them all the way home. A constant reminder of not being able to save her. A constant reminder of what was lost. Her name was Charlotte, and I lost her in the water.